Hey everyone, this is Rahul with the Alternative Investors Hangout, and today we have a returning guest. He is a registered investment advisor. He is Jeffrey Borneman. Thanks for coming on again, Jeffrey.
Hey, Raul. Thanks for having me back.
Okay, Janet Yellen is going to be the new Federal Reserve Chairman, and there are a lot of things that are going on in my mind regarding Yellen. First of all, what made me laugh is she stated that there's no equity bubble out there, or there's no bubbles, and a lot of Republican congressmen question her about that because if you have 0% interest rates, you're going to create some sort of distortions. And I'm looking at the marketplace right now. I'm looking at some stocks like Amazon, PE ratio of over 1300, LinkedIn ratio over 700, and I can name many other stocks. So what is she smoking, or why would she be saying that? Is it just to justify all of her money printing, or what's going on there?
Keep in mind that the reason that she was grilled so hard was because she was the one that, and what the Congress people were responding to was her statement that she didn't realize that there was a bubble in housing in '06, '07, and '08. So as incredulous as they were over that, her coming out and saying that she sees no bubbles now, it was just, according to the Fed, it's how you put out a fire. You just throw more gasoline on it. What she said on Thursday was that it is, quote, imperative that we have a strong recovery. And you're aware that every time there is taper talk, the market goes down 100 points. Who was it? On Wednesday, the Fed guy from Texas came out and said that, we can't do this forever. And so Yellen ran out the next day and said, it's imperative that we have a strong recovery. And I really do believe that come her coronation as the new Fed chair, if in fact it happens, that they probably will increase the QE and not decrease it, because what's happening here is we're seeing month by month the slow erosion of the power of our GDP via PMI or ISM or the DLS numbers, which we all know are manipulated. But it's still a slowing economy, and the slower the economy gets, the more of a spiral it ends up in on the downside. So I do believe that by the time she makes it to the chair, if in fact she does, that $85 billion a month will be increased and not decreased.
We were talking off air about what Janet Yellen could do, and you told me that it could be much, much, much higher when it comes to how much she's going to print a month. I suggested the number $100 billion a month, but you suggested somewhere around maybe $140 to $150 billion a month, and that's just flat out insane.
Yeah, it is, but keep in mind that Janet Yellen, Bernanke, all went to the Krugman School of Economics. And Krugman was the one that initially said, no, QE is a wonderful idea, but it's way too small. It needs to be 3, 4, 10 times bigger than it is. And so we've now spent an additional $7 billion to prime the pump. Nothing is happening. Things are getting worse, not better. All the countries that are tapering are doing much better, but we are not willing to allow our stock market to go down. A full 80% of the QE, and that includes the bailout, the stimulus, the twist, went straight to the stock market. And the report came out on Wednesday, and I do believe I have that number. The stock market as of Wednesday was up 108% since Obama took office. And we know that there's $6 trillion sitting of private investor money on the sidelines. So really what they did is they replaced the private sector money with QE money. And that's how we ended up with a market that was right where it was in '08 and is now higher.
So do you see another bubble forming like we saw in 1999, and if you look at it, 2007, 2008, because it feels frothy right now, to be honest with you?
All right. We were talking offline, and we were talking about China and what happened Friday with China's announcement of what they call their reboot. And I would normally say, yeah, we are top-heavy. We are very top-heavy, considering that not only are some of the PEs just way out of whack, but we cannot afford to have the demand for goods and services that we once had. However, Friday's announcement was anticipated. Everybody knew that China would come out with their communist 5-year plan, and then it would be big. Everybody expected big reforms. Well, these reforms are gigantic. They encompass things which people did not expect, not only loosening up with their financial sector and their banking system rules to allow private investment into the country, but they're also allowing their individual citizens to invest outside the country. But there's more. Hold on a second. Just to let you know, they're going to allow the setting up of their own FDIC, which they have never had before, which will make sure that they can keep monies in their banks, because once there is a bank run, everybody runs to the bank. They're going to, what they call it, the professionalization of the banking sector, and that they will pull out all the stops on financial reforms. That the state's role will be reduced in financial areas, that the state monopolies, including water, electricity, transportation, and telecom, will be, quote, relaxed, which means they're going to be allowing foreign investors to come in and not only take positions in existing companies, but form other companies. And this is, keeping in mind, this is the big switch from a manufacturing economy to a consumption economy, and that's what they want. So the United States, we're going to be switching roles, and this isn't something that happens overnight. This is something that, we're a manufacturer. The last 50 years we've been a consumer nation, and now all this is being handed off to China. They're switching from industrial to consumer, and we get to supply them now, which is going to be really interesting to see. By the way, they also relaxed the one-child policy, which is the only piece of news that made it out on Friday regarding all these reforms. Everybody pegged on that, and that was the only one you heard. But they're also promising to ban their re-education centers, which is absolutely wonderful. So, that's a long answer to your question. Getting back to your question, do we see this as being frothy? Barring that news, I would have said, yeah, I'm being very careful, and my stops right now are at 7% on my stock, and I would maybe bring them up to 5%. But that, coupled with the midterms coming up, I see a couple of corrections between now and the midterms until the party that's in power realizes that they're going to lose big and there's nothing else to hold on to. So I don't think that they will allow much more than a correction or two of 5 to 7% between now and then.
Yeah, regards to this stock market crash, I'm looking at 2016 like I saw 2000, 2008, because you saw a new president come in, and I know you're talking about the midterms. I don't see a bubble then, but if you're looking at 2016, Obama's going to be gone, and usually the powers that be crash the markets the last 2 times around. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. I'm not going to guarantee anything. But going back to your topic regards to the Chinese reforms, I'm looking at this right now. I think this is really huge that the mainstream media did not cover. It's actually on Zero Hedge. But one of the market reforms was accelerate yuan convertibility and interest rate reform. If you're talking about that, wouldn't that give China a step closer to becoming the world's reserve currency? Right now, their problem was their currency wasn't convertible, their bond market's not convertible, but now they're making steps for that, and we know that the Chinese and the Russians, they're clearly mad at what the United States are doing in trashing the dollar. So do you see this as a step moving towards a world reserve currency, or even a basket full of currencies that could include the yuan, or not?
I see it as the latter. I don't see the Chinese as wanting the yuan to be the world reserve currency. I do see them as wanting the yuan to be the top dog in the basket. Hopefully the United States, and when this happens, this isn't an if, this is a when. When this happens, we're hoping that the United States will be able to hold on to the number 2 spot. The idea here is that that basket will be based on a country's GNP as opposed to GDP versus their debt. We have high GNP, but we have astronomical debt. So our ability, the idea here is that when that happens, this will be administered through the IMF, World Bank, BIS, which would truly make it a one world government, because that would all be under the auspices of the UN. And of course, you've got Holder out there arguing before the Supreme Court right now that the United States Constitution needs to be a back seat to the UN right now versus in that whatever case that is. Be that as it may, I see them limiting the U.S.'s ability to borrow after that. So if the U.S. is able to hold on to the number 2 spot, that's all well and good, but it's going to be a matter of how much can we issue in debt, and that will limit our growth. And that's what everybody's concerned about.
Right, and the way to grow our economy, obviously, is to cut spending and cut taxes and decrease rules and regulations. But the people in office don't seem to understand that basic concept. And before I let you go, I wanted you to touch base on your MDEF investing. For those that don't know what Jeffrey's all about, you're about metals, defense, energy, and food. And what's that all about?
Oh, thanks, Earl, for bringing that up. My clients have core portfolios of metals, defense, energy, and food. If you go to my Facebook page, which is Jeffrey C. Borneman, imagine they can get the spelling from you. I won't bore you with it. You can see my thesis, which is called The Cold Equations of Crisis Investing. And it's a mini thesis. Don't let it scare you. It's only 3.5 pages long, but it gives you the idea of how mankind has always relied on metals, defense, energy, and food. Always. Those are the 4 basic things that every human being, all the way up to an entire country, need to not only own but control. And, I've been in this business a long time, and one of the guys from BlackRock came to me one day and said, "What's your portfolio?" And I showed it to him, and he goes, "Well, that's what China's buying." And I knew that, but I'd never really thought about it in those terms. And so really what I did is I had my clients buying and owning things that sold to China for 20 years. And now those very same things are becoming very, very valuable to us. As inflation rises, the concept here is that demand will diminish in the United States. So people will not be able to necessarily afford the new iPod or iPhone or the new Ford Fusion or the new, whatever the widget is that they think they have to have. And as food costs go up and energy costs go up, they're going to be spending all their money on the things that really matter. So the concept here is to have a portfolio that not only combats the inflation, but will also rise in value as money managers see, oh my gosh, that's the only place there's any demand and growth is metals, defense, energy, and food. And if you think it through, it makes a lot of sense. So go to my Facebook page, hit like if you want to chat about it. Maybe we can talk about what's in the portfolio and if it's a fit for any one of your listeners.
Yeah, I'll put a link to your Facebook profile under this video. And before I let you go, I just want to say that hopefully we could reconnect and maybe talk about the book that you co-authored, Plundered, maybe in a few months. I'll try to read it over Christmas break. And
wonderful.
And,
yeah, I highly recommend it, by the way, for any of your listeners who are between age 15 and 30. It is a complete history of the progressive movement in America. And it really kind of fills in a lot of the holes as to how we got here, how the Democratic system and the Republican system always seem to be on the same page behind the scenes. It explains all that.
Yeah, I really want to read that, and I'll probably buy it tonight. And before I let you go, how can people follow your work again?
The easiest way to do it is just find me on Facebook, and it's Jeffrey, Jeffrey, middle initial C, last name Borneman, B as in boy, Orneman. If anybody chimes in, just say it's from Raul, and I'll plug in.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on again, Jeffrey.
Thank you, sir. See you soon. Have a great holiday.
You too.